not. I have a sense where that's going to go, but I have to look at the cases. Second idea is if there are documents that are referred to by a witness who's testifying, let me suggest this to the parties, and that is in advance of the testimony, so it's not disruptive. Identify the document. Prepare 20 copies of the document. In advance, move to publish these documents to the jury. I'm likely to deny any motion to publish if there's controversy about the admissibility of that document, and I'd resolve it at the end like any other document. So probably confer in advance if there are any documents that ought to be circulated. I'm not going to, that's the only way to do it, is to circulate the document when they are testifying. That's my suggestion to you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Well, and of course, it comes at a time when it's too late to do it in advance for what's happened so far, and so we moved to admit all the documents that have been referred to so far in this examination.
Okay, there hasn't been an objection to that. I've already denied that, and this was just self-evident. It took me a moment to think of this obvious solution. So if you, I'm sorry that you didn't think of it in advance, but it's, so no, it's too late. But if you want to confer about any documents, it could be, it hasn't been so long. It's been a couple of days we've been watching these things. So if you want to go back and circulate these things and there's no objection, then that's fine. Presently there's an objection. If you can overcome them with a stipulation, that's fine. That's where we stand. Okay? Let's can we get our jurors? All right, our jurors and alternates have returned to the courtroom. Mr. Durst is present with counsel. People are represented. And let's, Mr. Henderson, resume that video.
The question I asked was about the magazine, which was addressed.
I remember it now when you asked me.
Detective Struk, listen, it's been, as Mr. DeGuerin pointed out, one of the few things he and I agree on. But it's been a lot of years. So obviously, as Mr. DeGuerin said, that's why we have these things, so that you're able to refresh your recollection, etc. Were those that's you up there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And those were your words, correct?
Absolutely.
Does that refresh your recollection about the magazine?
Yeah.
I want to show you what marked people's necks in order. 61. You recognize that?
Table 61.
Yes, you recognize that?
Not specifically. But I remember the issue where he had a magazine and thought it was to impress me, I guess based on his family stature. But the name meant nothing to me, the magazine meant nothing to me. So that's where it is in my mind.
Do you remember him specifically mentioning anything about his father, Seymour Durst?
He could have, but again, it wasn't impressive. I wasn't impressed by it. I think he was trying to impress me.
MS-002, 52711. LADA base 154714. This is on page 18 in that section, lines 15 through 24.
Table 62 and 62 and 62.
He didn't throw it at me, but it was kind of like, oh, and by the way, my father, is Seymour Durst, so who's Seymour Durst? And he's mentioned in the magazine or the family, he laid it out. I mean, he didn't get me on the head with it in the sense that I had to respond to it, or that I had to be drooling over the fact that he gave me this magazine. But he certainly brought it with him to make mention that he was
That refresh your memory? Yes. And now, take a look at it again. This is a picture of a New York magazine. It is, you can't see the date on this copy because it is blown up. I believe the date is from May of 1980, and it's titled "The Men Who Own New York." And there's a picture of Seymour Durst in the bottom right. As you sit here right now, you're saying you don't have a specific memory of which magazine it was, but you indicated your memory was it was a magazine that mentioned his father and who his father was.
apparently, yes.
And to the best of your memory, is this consistent with the magazine that you remember?
It could very well be.
Had you ever had anybody come up to you and take out a magazine or a photo of their father and put it in front of you?
Of course not.
How did you take that when he did it?
I can't say I was pissed, but I just thought it was tacky. Again, my recollection of how it came about, I wasn't impressed by it. Meant nothing to me. The name meant nothing to me. Who he was and his family. The fact that he had a magazine and I recall part of it.
Did you take it at the time as him basically trying to throw his weight around?
If that was his intent to impress me, it didn't work.
Well, no, I'm asking you, you're having the interaction with him.
Right.
So we weren't there, you were. So I'm asking you, what was your impression, sitting across from him, of what he was doing by presenting you with the magazine? Again, I'm not asking you how it affected you. I'm asking you, what was your belief and impression as to how he was presented?
I wasn't impressed by it. It didn't change anything. It meant nothing to me as to who he was or who his family was.
Detective, you
Never
can't.
heard of the name before.
Detective, you can't. I'm not asking you, to be clear, I'm not asking you whether it worked, how you ended up taking the attempt. I'm saying, sitting across from him, did you have an opinion at the time as to, in the middle of this conversation, what it appeared he was trying to do by presenting you with the magazine?
I guess trying to impress me, or I thought it was, tacky. I don't remember specifically what my emotions were at the time, but it didn't mean that much to me, if that was his intent.
Did you later learn that he was a part of a very powerful, influential New York Manhattan real estate family?
Later on, yes, sure.
Now, when he first walked in, is it fair to say that you kind of viewed this case like you did most missing persons cases?
Yes.
Missing persons, you testified before, was a separate division, is that right?
Correct.
And given your experience, now I'm just using a percent here, I'm not asking you exact, but based on your experience, it's pretty accurate to say, you know what, a very high percentage, whether it's 90% or 95% or 99% of people that report missing end up either showing up or being missing because they have left and eventually contact their family. Is that your experience?
Yes.
Have you ever yourself been involved in investigating a missing persons case where over a period of years the individual never showed up?
Not me personally, no.
And so when Mr. Durst came in there and reported his wife missing, is it also fair to say that you were not thinking this was going to be the beginning of what it became? Is that fair?
That's very true.
Is it also fair to say that, kind of, if you knew what you knew now, are there many things that you would have done differently?
Of course.
Have you said, in terms of these cases, missing persons cases, have you ever referred to them as a dime a dozen?
Could have.
Does that sound like vernacular you would use?
Yes.
And I want you to assume that you used that term, that they're a dime a dozen. What was you meant by that?
Well, because of the volume that we dealt with in Manhattan, missing persons all the time. People would walk in, have the arguments with their spouses, but we had a criteria.
Okay.
We had a criteria where all hands on deck would usually only come with a person who was a minor that was missing, or a person that was not of sound mind, or there was any indication that the missing person had sustained an injury or was a victim of a crime. Other than that, it fell into a different basket where it was, Johnny will come home or Mary's out in the Boston place.
And is it fair to say that when Bob Durst walked in and he told you what happened, your initial response was, she took off and she's coming back? Or she took off and she's not going to come back because she's done with it?
Well, that frame of mind, it would be fair to say that I developed over the next day or two. But my first encounter with him, when he had explained to me the hiatus between when he left Cora to when he showed up at the squad, he had seemed to account for where she should have been, whether in the hospital or staying over for classes or clinics, whatever you want to call them. So that seemed okay. That seemed normal at that time.
You mentioned, and I get your language wrong, but you said he had a demeanor like he was ordering a sandwich or something. Do you recall? You explained that clip for you?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you meant by that?
Well, a person that's coming in and reporting a spouse that he hasn't heard from in 4 or 5 days, it would be reasonable to expect that he'd be far more emotional. Excited, but I didn't see that. But at that point, I don't know this guy from the hole in the wall, so if that's his makeup, well, so be it at that point. Over the next period of days, of course, things changed.
Captain, is it easier for you? I'm going to be having you, Matt, first time?
Yeah.
I'll give you the option, Detective. I'm going to be having you read a substantial amount of material. Is it easier for you to have me read it, or is it easier for you to read it yourself? Yesterday, sometimes Mr. DeGuerin read it, sometimes you read it. I know some people, it's difficult, they don't really want to read it, it's harder. You tell me what's easier for you.
Read it, sir.
Okay, all right. So, I'm going to read, this is from the stand. Yeah, 4436. I'm gonna put this in, I'm gonna put this up.
Okay, is it says 63 now?
That's,
Or is this already marked?
what's it?
Is it already marked or is it cool? This is 60. This is from the defense exhibit?
No, we'll mark these.
So as you go, so 63.
Yes.
Okay.
This is dated Friday, 2/5/82, dated original report, dated assignment 2/5/82. I'm not going to go through the name that's on the top, etc. I'm going to go to, this is a missing person under investigation, Kathleen Durst, initial interview of complainant, preparation of DD 13. Complainant Robert Durst, president of 20 PDU Squadron, and states the following. Has been married 9 years to Kathleen McCormack Durst, female, white, 29 years, who is presently a fourth-year medical student at the Albert Einstein School of Medicine in the Bronx. Complainant further states that the last conversation he had with his wife was at approximately 2,300 hours Sunday, January 31st, 1982, subsequent to driving her to the Daytona train station with their upstate South. What does V/O mean?
Vicinity of.
Oh, this is VO, vicinity of their upstate South Salem summer home. Mr. Durst states that he is the son of the prominent real estate developer Sheila Durst and is a well-known New York City figure. Subsequent questioning revealed no known kidnap, ransom demands, etc. Complainant states that he attempted to report his wife missing yesterday, but was informed that it failed to meet missing persons guidelines. Was not concerned until yesterday at the warehouse, since her medical study required her to remain at the college for several days at a time, but never duration as long as the time. Further investigation revealed little marital difficulty, with some recent problems involving his wife's drinking. Mrs. Durst has seen a therapist regarding drinking, but has since terminated the treatment. Mr. Durst further states that the family Mercedes-Benz was still at the garage, vicinity of his 37 Riverside Drive apartment. Yeah, 64. Parking is 64. This is bait stamp 004442. And these are going to be your notes. I'm going to skip the description, but it says married 9 years, prominent family. Father mentioned in New York Magazine last year. Father mentioned in New York Magazine last year, quote, who owns title, quotation marks. By the way, does that refresh your memory, Detective?
After reading my notes now, yes.
And does the prior article that I showed you, the New York Magazine article, does that now appear to be that cover what Mr. Durst showed you?
It very well could be.
Also, house in Westchester, apartment 12 East 86th Street, apartment number 1520, Mercedes in garage, no known or apparent marital problems, out of ordinary. Does drink to some degree, has been seeing a therapist. Real estate business, public figure in newspapers, sister Mary Hughes has phone numbers I won't give, brother Jim McCormack phone numbers, Dean Dr. Cook phone numbers. No signs of subject, home, phone, etc. relatives, has not reported to work due Monday, 2/1/82. Can you this report and these notes, those are your notes, do they appear to be accurate?
Yeah, I wrote them.
Yeah, and for the most part, to the best of your memory, does that appear to be the substance of your interview with Mr. Durst?
Yep.
And any idea how long, again, it's a long time ago, that interview took?
Well, it indicates that I called Dr. Cook at 10 after 6.
Mr. Durst told you during your interview with him that no known or apparent marital problems. When you did your investigation, did you discover that to be true?
Oh, no.
In fact, there was a lot of marital problems, correct?
Correct.
spoke to Mr. Durst, you indicated that you referred him to missing persons, is that correct?
No, I did.
You referred him,
No, I referred the case to missing persons.
oh, you didn't refer him, just the case itself.
No.
And I want to put up, it's going to be 004119.
So this is 64, 64, 65, correct?
I have a one-page document. I'll bring it up to you as well. Are you able to see it on your screen?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that the missing persons report that you did?
Yeah.
And is that your writing, or is that the detective that you referred it to?
Could you just bring it up a little bit so I can see the signature? It looks like all right.
There's a signature at the bottom.
Yeah.
So that's what you filled out, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was filled out, was that before or after you were spoken to Mr. Durst?
Well, it may have been a blank that I may have been making notations on while he was there, at least in part. And then once he left the squad, I would have then used that document, the scratch copy, to call this in person, and I guess I spoke to Marshall.
Under description, you have written down, let me find it here. Slight stomach. You see that?
Yeah.
Would that have been something you would have, you were coming from Mr. Durst?
Well, it would have had to come to him. I mean, why would I put it down?
That's what I'm asking. You never met Mrs. Durst, right?
No.
You've seen photographs of Kathie Durst, right?
Sure.
Fair to say, beautiful young woman.
Yes.
He lists her as 5 feet 5, 120 pounds, correct?
Yes, I see that.
And so he lists her as 5'5", 120, and then the slight stomach. Did you understand what that meant?
I'll guess.
Well, what was your understanding?
But I wrote it down now, whether it means she was getting a little pot belly or pregnant or whatever, but I think it probably meant that she was just maybe not in great shape.
Detective, it's listed under deformity, so would that have meant that you would have said, Mr. Durst, any deformities that your wife has, and he would have then responded, slight stomach?
Well, the use of deformities, as I recall, it's been a long, long time, was anything that was noteworthy. Pierced ear, tattoo, missing finger, something that would be distinguishable about a particular individual, which would aid a missing person, like Marshall. So if there was a cadaver in one of the morgues with a black belly, maybe it would help him, but that's probably why I put it down. But I'm sure I got it from him.
You've seen photographs of Kathie Durst from that time, correct?
Yes.
He also described the jewelry she was wearing, correct?
Something that looks like
Diamond earring, is that right? Do you want me to bring you can you see the actual?
yeah, I can see it. It's just above this light stomach comment.
No, it's going to be off, yes, off to the right above the. Is that correct?
Yes.
So he was telling you that the last time he seen her, she was wearing that jewelry, is that correct?
Yes.
And then she was also wearing a large tan down coat.
Yes.
By the way, Detective, what does the term, quote, "an unusual" mean, unquote?
Where do you see that? What you're asking me to...
No, it's not that document, but you at another period of time you explain what an unusual is.
An unusual in how our procedures would be that an unusual would be made by probably the district captain for an event. I don't know. Are you referring to something on here that says unusual? Because I haven't read the whole document again.
No,
It's just the term unusual.
So you repeated during your interviews with Director Smirling,
Okay.
you said that Durst, the case became unusual.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I'm sure it was.
And can you explain what that meant? And how it became unusual?
When the case develops enough legs to it where it's going to generate if the case develops enough legs and it generates something that's media-worthy or it's going to generate publicity for the department. Usually a district captain or the squad commanding captain would initiate an unusual, which is basically a narrative of what this case is, and then I guess it goes downtown. So all concerned would be on board with it.
And do you know when it was that this case became unusual?
I couldn't tell you specifically, probably within a few days, because I think this began on a Friday, so my guess Monday maybe.
And would that have been a determination to make it unusual? Would you have been the kind of first step in line? Or would that have been somebody else that would have requested that categorization?
I think once the boss becomes aware of the significance of the case, what he believes it to be worthy enough to send down, he would prepare an unusual. It's done by him.
And so is it fair to say that within a very short period of time, the NYPD was aware that this was the wife of the scion of a very prominent and wealthy individual in Manhattan?
That's fair to say, yes.
Complaint further states, and the complaint would be Mr. Durst, correct?
Yes.
That his wife had an appointment on Monday evening, 2182, with his girlfriend Gilberta and her cousin Charles Saff. S-A-A-F. Now omitted. Call made to cousin, no answer. Do you recall this?
Yes.
So Mr. Durst basically told you that Kathie was supposed to meet up with her friend Gilberta and with her cousin, and that she didn't show up. Is that correct?
Yes.
You ended up sending a notification to Detective Keene in missing persons. Is that right?
It was either Keene or Marshall. Either Keene took it and then Marshall was assigned to it, or vice versa.
And you were shown this yesterday by Mr. DeGuerin. Do we know the exhibit from the defendant?
And page 1 of 3.
We put that out. And this missing persons report, we looked at this yesterday, do you recall that?
Yes.
And I'm not going to go through everything that is listed. But again, this would have been by protocol filled out by the missing persons detective after you referred the case, is that right?
Yes.
And this would have been done pursuant to missing person's responsibilities in documenting what the situation was with the missing person. Is that right?
Yes.
And again, this says that she was wearing jewelry, diamond earrings, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that that night you stayed late and made several phone calls. Is that right?
Yes.
Would you agree, Detective, that when you are catching a fresh case, that it's common for detectives, you guys don't sleep much for days at a time?
Very much.
And is it fair to say that once you spoke to Larry Cohen on that first night, it was being reported to you that this man was a domestic abuser of the missing woman, correct?
Yes, according to what the statement was.
And it was being, and as reported to you, it also meant to you at that time that you've already caught him in one lie, correct?
Correct.
And in your experience, Detective, who's the first person that you look at when a woman disappears? You point out spouse. By the way, do you recognize this man right here?
Yes, I do.
And who is that?
Robert Durst.
For the record, Mr. Dillon was standing behind Mr. Griffith when he asked that question.
I see you standing behind me.
Precisely. Also, Mr. DeGuerin has described.
So you were asked yesterday, Detective, about a search that was conducted at the South Salem location by the New York State Police. Is that correct? Remember Mr. Garrett asked you about that?
Yes.
Detective, at this point in time, you have gotten a brief statement from Mr. Durst. Is that right?
Yes.
When he left, did you direct him to do anything, speak to him?
I don't recall.
Would it have been your normal protocol to have told him, listen, you need to contact New York State Police because that's the last location where you saw Kathie and file a report back there?
I don't recall if I did that or not.
Do you know how it was that Detective Harney from New York State Police got involved in the case?
I'm not sure. It was either a murder or I just don't know. I don't recall exactly how they became involved and how they arrived at the scene.
Were you aware, did you become aware that Trooper Harney at that point, I call him Detective actually Trooper Harney, that he ended up having contact with Bob Durst late on the evening of February 5th, or maybe even early on the morning of February 6th, after Mr. Durst left the 20th precinct? Did you become aware of that?
I don't recall that, no.
You ended up being told by Detective Harney that he had been out to the location in South Salem, right?
Yes.
You would agree, Detective, that you really cannot characterize what he said he did with respect to that South Salem house as a search, correct?
Correct. That he had entered the premises to look for anything that was obvious. That was my term, search.
In fact, do you recall specifically what Trooper Harney did in terms of his, quote, search the location?
Well, I recall having the conversation with the trooper, and we discussed his findings as to when he entered the premises.
As you sit here today, do you have a clear memory of what kind of search Trooper Harney did?
No, not specifically, or how extensive it was, but I understand he went through the premises looking for obvious signs of a crime, or my main concern at that point, as I stated yesterday, was that there was not a female laying on the floor someplace and that we needed help. After that, I'm sure we discussed whether or not there was anything obvious that he would have seen on blood or spatter or whether the place was in disarray. I have to imagine that that's what we discussed.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
In terms of what search was conducted, do you believe that you have a better memory of that, or do you believe
course, the other witness, or your
Put this up for you. And again, you had a chance to look at these. These are your reports that you wrote at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There's your name on the bottom. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
It says, on the first paragraph, it says that telephone call to Dr. Cooperman on Monday, February 1982. He stated that Kathie Durst called his Monday morning, February 1st, 1982, between 9 and 11 a.m., during which time she advised him that she was ill, diarrhea, and would not make school that day. I want to ask you, the comment would not make school that day. Is that what Dr. Cooperman told you?
Yes.
And was your understanding that Kathie was in school that day?
No. She was not at school that day.
No. Was your understanding that Kathie was supposed to be in school that day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, we can continue on.
Yeah. People's 70 is LATA base 004315. It is an interview conducted by Detective Struk of Oscar Liberati, Libarati, as well as statements received from Robert Durst. And the date of this report that these statements were received was February 8, 1982. One-page document. People 71 is a one-page document, LADA base 004308. It is documenting activities conducted on February 8th, 1982 by detectives on the case regarding a search conducted at 37 Riverside Drive. The next document, People 72, is a one-page document, LADA base 004312. This document details an interview Detective Struk conducted on February 8th, 1982 with Michael Burns.
Please, Dr. Fitzgerald, can we go back to page 4307, the interview with Dr. Kaufman? What is it? Is that Cooper or Kaufman? Or did you skip it? Was by order here? Would have been what?
People 73. It's a 10-page document. It is handwritten notes from Detective Struk's memo pad, as he described it, detailing in detail an interview he conducted with Robert Durst on February 8th, 1982. The dates are LADA 004716. I'm sorry, 16 through LADA 004725. The next document, People 74, the one-page document, LADA base 004323. It details interview conducted. interview conducted by Detective Struk of Mr. and Mrs. Mayer, M-A-Y-E-R, on February 9th, 1982. It also details observations Detective Struk made while at their residence, as well as in the general vicinity of where he conducted his interview. People 75 is a one-page document. LADA base 004319. It details an interview Detective Struk conducted of Dr. Marion, M-A-R-I-O-N, Goodman, on February 9th, 1982. The next document is Pupils 76. It is a one-page document. Base LADA 004330. It details a re-interview that Detective Struk conducted of Gilberta Najami and Frida Najami on February 10th, 1982. It also details documents received by Detective Struk by one or more of these witnesses on that particular date. People 77 is a two-page document. The first page is a report, the second page is receipts from Lynn's Boot Shoe Limited that are attached. This is LADA base 004331. That's the first page. And the second page is 004708. This report detailed conduct that was engaged in by Detective Struk, as well as other detectives, on February 10th, 1982, at Lynn's shoe store, as well as interviews conducted at that location. People's 78 is a one-page document. LADA base 004351. It details a research at the Riverside Drive address that was conducted by Detective Struk and other detectives on February 15th, 1982. People's 79 is a two-page document. LADA base 004748 through 4749. These are handwritten notes taken from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing an interview of Robert Durst on February 15th, 1982. The next document, People's 80. It's a one-page document. LADA base 004750. It is a handwritten note taken from Detective Struk's memo pad, dated February 15th, detailing a conversation Detective Struk had with Kathie Traceman, T-R-A-Y-S-T-M-A-N.
Kathie?
Kathie, K-A-T-H-Y. People's 81. It's a one-page document, LADA base 004352. It is a report dated February 16th, 1982, which details activities conducted by Detective Struk and other detectives in responding to the District Attorney's Office, meeting with ADA Roger Hayes, and obtaining various subpoenas. People's 82 is a 2-page document. It's having no statement from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing a call Detective Struk received on February 24th, 1982 from Susan Berman in a conversation he had with her on the telephone.
Let me stop you for a second. Counsel?
Oh, hold on. LADA dates 00475960.
When you say this, I just want to read out the phone numbers for the Riverside Drive House, the 86th arrest, and the victims. Okay. I will try.
People 82 was
80 was 47.
Yeah.
You have the date numbers on here?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's it. 81, 4352. And with respect to 81, Your Honor, there's going to be a stipulation that the phone number 212-877-3414 was the landline that were no cell phones, obviously, back in 1982 for 37 Riverside Drive in New York City. So stipulated, counsel?
Yes.
It's a stipulation. Yeah, and this stipulation regarding the phone records, we just want to make sure this is going to be a stipulation that is not just for this witness in terms of phone numbers. This is a stipulation that's going to apply through trial as to what the phone numbers were, else you go through.
With the same limitation that if in fact it turns out that there is a problem with one of those numbers.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Second phone number, 212-734-0898. The landline for 12.
I'm sorry, repeat that. Second phone number?
212-734-0898. The phone number for 12 East 86th Street, New York. So stipulated, counsel? Yes. Indicated. Finally, 212-586-3131. Telephone number for 1133 6th Avenue, which was the Durst Company Business Van Dorn, VANDORN, Mr. Durst's place of business at the time. And then finally, phone number 212-763-5022, which is going to be the phone number for the 13 Hoyt Street in South Salem, Durst. The Hoyt Street, I think it's 13, but the South Salem address in South Salem. No, it's not in that report. It's just the second report. We're trying to. I don't think you're disputing the. No. Yeah, no, it's not on that. Your Honor, of course, that stipulation.
Yeah.
And again, just so it's clear, this is a stipulation that is not just for this witness. It will last unless and until either side is able to show that somehow that explanation is correct. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. People's 83. The 1-page document, LADA base 004362. It details activities by Detective Struk, picking up and obtaining hospital records of Kathie Durst from Jacoby Hospital. The date of the report is February 26, 1982. Just come.
Yeah, let's go. 47.
61, a one-page document dated February 26, 1982. And the details on that day, activities by Detective Struk, and obtaining telephone records from telephone security. People's 85. One-page document, LADA base 4764. Entered notes from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing the interview conducted with Doug Oliver on March 3rd, 1982. People's 86 is a one-page document stamped LADA base 004765. It's a one-page document from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing the call Detective Struk conducted to Gilberta Dejami on or about February 7th, 1982. People's 87 is a March 7th. People's 87 is a two-page document based on LADA base 004766. It is handwritten notes from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing a conversation with Geraldine and Mary Hughes. I believe that would be Geraldine McInerney and Mary Hughes on March 8th, 1982, as well as another entry on March 8th, 1982, detailing a return call to Geraldine McInerney. And the dates are 4766 through 67. People's 88. It's a one-page document. It's a handwritten note from Detective Struk's memo pad dated March 8th, detailing a return call to ADA Bill Hoyt, H-O-Y-T, LADA base 4767. The next document is a one-page document. People's 89. LADA base 004772. Detailing a one-page note from Detective Struk's memo pad dated March 15th, where he conferred with Senior Investigator Bob Lowell, L-O-W-E-L-L, of the New York State Police. People's 90 is a one-page document. LADA base 004777. It's a one-page handwritten note from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing the call Detective Struk made to Bob Lowell on March 22nd. The next document is a one-page document. People's 91. LADA base 4697, detailing a notification Detective Struk received on April 26, 1982 from Durst attorney Scopetta, requesting that all business concerning his client Robert Durst be done through him.
SCOPPETTA.
One. The report has it as one.
I think it's actually, it might be two P's.
Well, it might be two P's in the bottom.
We're outlining what's in the report. The report has one.
It's the report, it says it's one.
This seems like one P, right?
The report says one B. We agree on it.
Wikipedia says two, but okay.
Go with the evidence in this case over Wikipedia. People's 92, two-page document date stamp of the first page is 004461 through 4462. It details activities by Detective Struk, and obtaining a subpoena by DPA Roger Hayes for MCI Telecommunications Corporation on November 12, 1982. People's 93, the two-page document, LADA base 004538. These are handwritten notes by Detective Struk detailing an interview conducted by Detective Struk with Florence Jones on December 27, 1982. Second page with the date stamp ends in 39. Yes. People's 94 is a one-page document. LADA base 004787. It's a one-page handwritten note from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing a call Detective Struk received from Peter Schwartz on January 10th, 1983. People's 95 is a one-page document. LADA base 004788. It is a one-page handwritten note from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing activities by Detective Struk on January 14th, 1983, as well as a call to Scopetta in his notepad again, 1P. On January 25th, 1983. People's 96. The two-page document. LADA base 4789 through 90. Handwritten notes from Detective Struk's memo pad detailing an entry on January 29th where Detective Struk went to Coin Laundry and conducted certain activities there and spoke with various individuals. People's 97. People 79.
Number 97.
I'm sorry, 97. Two-page document. LADA base 079677 through 78. It's a NYPD Police Department memo dated February 9th, 1982, detailing an interview conducted by NYPD of Roberto Vittori, Roberto Vittori. conducted by Detective Struk, Dr. David Kaufman, Kaufman, interview conducted on February 8th, 1982. Those are all listed. For now, I'll report them.
This is, that's the one that's now.
So, if you want to continue your question, the two other reports I'm going to gather, and then we can do those a little later.
Detective, I want to go back. Do you remember being asked about having an interview by Mr. DeGuerin, Dr. David Kaufman, who talked about Kathie having failed neurology? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you know when she failed her neurology courtship?
I don't know, sir.
If I told you that it was July 31st of 81, is that information that you ever knew before?
The information I may have been aware of, but the dates mean nothing to me at this point.
Were you aware that prior to Kathie's disappearance, that in fact she had passed neurology? Were you aware of that?
No.
And you were also asked about some other questions about what Dr. Kaufman said to you back when you interviewed him. This is again going back to your interview with him on February 8th, 1982. You asked him if he'd noticed any signs of any physical violence on Kathie's person.
I don't recall if I asked him that, but I would assume that had he brought forward that, I would have included that in my report.
Right, but is it fair to say, Detective, that when you were interviewing witnesses, so for instance, Dr. Kaufman was a doctor who supervised residents, that you did not necessarily ask people like that, hey, listen, what do you know about Bob and Kathie? Is that fair?
Correct.
I want you to assume for a moment that in January 2015, that Dr. Kaufman reported that he saw bruises on Kathie's face near the time of her disappearance. Is that something that he would have told you?
Is it 2015?
Yeah, I want to know, is that information? Is that something that he would have told you?
I would think that he should have.
Let me ask you, what I'm asking is that your report does not reflect any such statement from Dr. Kaufman.
Okay.
If it's not in your report, does that mean that he didn't say it to you? Would that be your position on something like that?
That would be my position.
Detective, what I'm asking you is that as you sit here today, so there are a couple of different possibilities. Number one would have been that Dr. Kaufman told you that and you did not document it. Knowing how you took reports, which you documented, if Dr. Kaufman had said what I just told you without a documented report.
Yes.
The second possibility is that you never asked Dr. Kaufman about information relating to the physical injuries, physical injuries on Kathie Durst. Given that Dr. Kaufman was someone in a supervisory position with Kathie, as you sit here today, do you know whether you inquired of him, hey, listen, did you ever notice anything, any injuries on Kathie?
No, I don't recall exactly what I would have asked him.
And just knowing the way that you conducted this investigation, is it fair to say that you covered certain information with certain witnesses? So as an example, one approach could be, every witness I talk to who knows Kathie, I'm going to ask her, what do you know about the relationship? What do you know about physical violence? Would you agree that is not the approach you took?
It's difficult for me to say what approach I really took at that time. I can only really reflect back on what I wrote in my report that you had.
Would it have been your habit or custom to ask in a case like this, your memory, would you have asked, in essence, every witness that knew Bob or Kathie Durst, would you have asked them to talk about the nature of their relationship? Or did you have specific questions that you were asking witnesses, and then that's what you did?
I thought that that particular witness held that kind of information, or was a close enough person to that, to Kathie or whatever. I would have asked those kinds of things.
Would you agree, Detective, that it would have been your habit and custom with respect to somebody who supervised Kathie during a rotation to not have asked them personal questions about domestic violence and Bob and Kathie Durst?
I believe I would have asked that kind of a question if the conversation was, if my interview was about his knowledge of her personally. I don't remember in full detail the Kaufman, how long the interview took.
Let me ask you, you wrote, and I'm summarizing, the subject of your conversation with Dr. Kaufman was about classes Kathie had been taking and about her performance on a rotation and about specifically neurology. That's what you wrote about. Nothing relating to
What was the date of the interview?
February the 8th.
I really don't know.
Okay? Do you remember speaking to Dr. Goodman, who was a former nurse who became a doctor and a friend of Kathie Durst's?
Do I remember speaking to him?
Yes.
It sounds familiar.
Do you remember her telling you that she received a phone call from Kathie in late November or early December of 1981? Do you recall that?
That by date, I don't.
Well, your report in essence says the following. She reported to you that on that conversation, Kathie may have had a few drinks. She was in incredible fear. She said that Bob had quit paying for medical school, and this is why he was still with him. She reported that Kathie said that she thought her phone was being tapped. She reported that Kathie stated she was afraid for her life. That Kathie told her if anything happens to her, that her friend Marion should go to the police. She reported that Kathie said, "You don't know what I've been through." She reported that Kathie talked about Bob having kicked a guy in the face and broken his jaw. And she reported that Bob had struck her several times. That's in your report. Does that refresh your recollection?
Your Honor, we're at the noon hour.
Yes, we are, exactly. Thank you.
Right.
We'll break until 1:30. Do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not form or express any opinion on the case. See you at 1:30.